Hi everyone, welcome. We have people joining for the moment. We will wait for a couple of minutes before beginning so that we are sure that anyone who wants joins. In the meantime, if you have any questions, you will be able to list them on the chat. On the top left, you have the public chat where you can list your questions. And you will also see in the shared notes document, we will have Nicoletta, our marketing specialist, who will be kind of merging your questions and listing them together so that we have a document that will contribute on at the end of this webinar. Also, if you would like to intervene, we'll have a Q&A session and a demo session. So if you'd like to intervene, then you would have to log in with being able to speak through the microphone as well. I see that currently all of you are registered only for listening. So just FYI, if you have maybe any specific question, if you'd like me to assist you with your use case, we can also discuss that live, not necessarily just on the chat. We will start in 1 minute. In the meantime, I'm quite curious if you have here people from the USA. We would really love to know if this time worked for you, not necessarily just for the people in the USA, actually for anyone that is joining across the world. Please let us know as well if this time worked for you or if you have any other suggestion in that regard, because we are also planning to have other webinars in the future. The next one will probably be on specific Confluence migration, but we could do other platforms as well. Okay, let's start. Okay, so thank you everyone very much for joining us today. We will have a 1-hour webinar on how to migrate from other tools to XWiki. The agenda looks as follows. We will have 30 minutes for the presentation of how to migrate from other tools to XWiki. Then we will have a Q&A session. As mentioned earlier, if you have questions during the presentation, please feel free to write them on the chat. And during the quick Q&A session, I will address them in order, taking them from there. But also, if you want to intervene actually at the end to present maybe your use case or phrase any other concern that you have, please feel free to also activate your microphone at the end. Then we will have another set of 15 minutes for a demo. Again, if you want to see any specific feature or migration option, we will also be able to demonstrate that for you. Okay, let's see who we are today. So first of all, XWiki SIS, the company is actually the home company for XWiki, the open source product, and Prepad. We offer a full set of professional services, and we have more than 500 clients at this point. We will turn 17 years old this year. And just a word about myself, I'm an account manager at XWiki. I specialized in migrations, and I have been working on migrations from Confluence, Sharepoint, other office tools, but also all the XWiki instances. That's just 2 words about us. Now let's see exactly why should we do all this? Why should we have a wiki? Why should we import and all that? So first of all, if you're here, you probably have a system that you think about replacing it, or maybe you're just curious about wikis and XWiki in general. So just a word about wikis in general. So they are systems that are specialized on knowledge sharing and information organization. They have dedicated features for that, such as features that allow you to capture information, to be able to share it more easily, to structure it in a manner that is natural, and to allow for people to find information easily. So all these technical features, if you wish, allow a company that uses, or an organization generally, that uses wikis to have an improved level of general knowledge in the company and productivity. So those are some aspects that you may want to consider when deciding if you want to set up a wiki or not. Now, okay, we know something about wikis, but why XWiki? Why especially XWiki? So XWiki is actually a prime open source alternative to other wiki software or even proprietary tools such as Confluence. It kind of differentiates itself from other tools through the fact that it offers more structure through features such as templates or structured data that allow you to create metadata and certain structured data that you can replicate and use all the time. For example, if you want to have documents that are procedures and you want to have a review date, or you want to have a department, you can add all those metadata and be able to filter them and sort them based on that. XWiki is also incredibly extensible. It has more than 700 extensions and macros that you can use to kind of configure, customize your instance as you wish, and make it kind of tailor it to your use case, whether it's an internet or whether it's a knowledge base or even a public website. And finally, it is very safe, scalable, being used by large companies with tens of thousands of users, and very reliable. Now, we know a bit about XWiki. Let's say that we have a software that we want to migrate from to XWiki. And then we have the question, why is it worth it to actually migrate? When you think about it first, you might think that it's a hassle to migrate data. But in reality, first of all, XWiki actually offers plenty of tools that allow you to migrate easily. It is much less time consuming to migrate all the data than to manually import it when you need it. Of course, a dedicated time for migration is a great occasion for cleanup and organization of all of your data. And finally, it brings a lot of value to the users, because if you have users that just meet the new system that doesn't have any data, they will be way less tempted to use it properly than when they have a system that already has data and it's already useful for them. Okay, now let's move to the actual presentation of the methods. I will present 5 methods to migrate, which are useful for different type of use cases. It will be kind of a short presentation for each one of them, but as I mentioned before, we can go a bit more in depth in the demo if you want to actually see it happening. And for Confluence, we will actually have a separate webinar in the near future. Okay, so when we migrate from another tool to XWiki, we first of all have to set up our XWiki instance, of course, and for that we have some prerequisites. The first one, of course, is good enough storage for a new system. Then we have to consider if we migrate or not the users, and what should be the authentication method. For example, if you already have a system where you're using Active Directory, or if you're using SSO, you might want to port that to XWiki. Or if not, you might be okay with just simple XWiki authentication. But this is one thing that you should consider from the beginning to allow, of course, for seamless access of your users to the new instance. Then we should consider the type of data that we will have on the new wiki. whether they are just simple pages, whether they are pages from static templates, or if they are structured pages that have metadata, such as the one that you might import from Sharepoint. Then we shall also consider what are our expectations in terms of history retention. If we want to migrate also our history from the other tool or not. And finally, we should take a look at the extensions that we are using on our old system. The extensions and the plugins that you're using might not all of them exist or be compatible with the features in XWiki. So we recommend taking a look at that, analyzing the macros and the extensions that exist in XWiki, and understanding first if, for example, you have features that do not exist in XWiki, if you can drop them, or if you would like us to develop them for you. Now, to start with the first method, the most simple one actually, it is the generic import for Wiki and HTML importing. This is useful actually for old XWiki pages or HTML files. And basically, what it does in long lines is the fact that in XWiki you can have content in multiple syntaxes or in HTML, and it can be converted properly and interpreted properly when using this type of content in XWiki. What you have to do if you want your XWiki instance to recognize your maybe other wiki syntax or HTML syntax is that you have to go to Extension Manager in your XWiki instance, find the extension for the syntax that you want to activate. For example, let's say that we want to activate DokuWiki syntax. You have to install it or activate it, and then you have to, so if you're using, for example, DokuWiki, what you want to do is, if you have a page written in that syntax, you create a new page in XWiki, let's just call it Doku syntax page. And what you want to do is to edit the page in Wiki mode. This will allow you to paste the DokuWiki syntax there, in your content in Wiki mode. Then you want to save the page. On the first save, it won't look right. The content won't be interpreted correctly. But then what you want to do is to come back to edit mode and select the syntax of your content, in this case DokuWiki. Select the syntax and then convert the page into that syntax. And once you do that, it will be rightly interpreted and you will have your formatting, styling, or wherever you used in that syntax. Okay. Then the second kind of bit more advanced, but also still quite simple method of importing or migrating is to import Office files. Now, here we have multiple options. The first one that I'm presenting right now is the manual one-by-one method, but we also have methods for being able to migrate larger batches of Office files. So in this use case, if, for example, you have some Office files in maybe a Dropbox or server storage or SharePoint or Google Docs, and you want to convert those Office files into XWiki pages, whether if they are just Word documents or if they are Excel documents, you can do that. To be able to do that, what you want to do is to set up LibreOffice and connect it to your instance. Then you have to, of course, have at hand the document, the Office document that you want to convert into an XWiki page. And then you have to go to your XWiki instance and create the page that you will be converting from Office in any space that you want. And when you create it, you have to choose Page from Office as kind of a template. After you do that, you will have a screen where you will be able to import your Office file. For example, in this case, it's just a file sample. And you will be able to decide if you want to filter out style and or split the document based on the headings. If you want, you can split a document into multiple wiki pages based on the headings in your Office file. After we decide upon that, and you hit on import, you can see your final result. And here we have an example. This right here is the Word file, docx file. And this right here is the XWiki page that resulted from importing this WordX file. As you can see, the styling is very similar. Of course, it can be edited a bit afterwards, but it is almost identical. And also what's maybe very important is the fact that all of the elements, such as images from your Word or Doc file, are also imported, and you will be able to see them in the attachment section. Now, just a quick mention here, as I also said before, this that I just presented is a manual operation for converting documents, Office documents, into XWiki pages one by one. But what you can also do is to actually import larger batches of Office documents and add or import their metadata as well. This is mostly used in the case of Sharepoint, for example. As you can see in our little screenshot here, we have here some Sharepoint documents that have some metadata, such as last modified date and department. And we can do it so that we import all of the Sharepoint documents and their metadata into XWiki. And this right here is the result of an import. I will go into detail about this in the batch import section, but it's just to mention that you also have this option. As you can see here, this is just an example of an Office page that was imported with its metadata, and it has the metadata, of course, editable when you're in edit mode. Okay, now the last mention on the simple Office import is the PDF import. If you are a company or an organization that uses a lot of PDF files, you might find this useful. You are basically able to import PDF files into XWiki on XWiki pages and preview them on XWiki pages. So what you want to do is to go again to Extension Manager, download the PDF Viewer Macro Pro, and activate it. And then on the page that you want to display that PDF, you want to use that macro, and it will result in something like this. So this is the macro that we're seeing right here. You can customize how the width or the height of the previewer, and it is you can interact with it. So it's not just a static preview. Now we're moving into a bit more of a complex use case or method, which is the database import. It is a batch import, and it allows you to batch import and automate file conversion. This is very useful for any tool that can export in CSV or Excel, such as Microsoft Access, Lotus Notes, Sharepoint, and many other even content management tools that have this option. Okay, just to mention some kind of general principles to say so. So the tool that we'll be using is called batch import. And the general principle is that you have an Excel or a CSV file that is usually, for example, a database export or a Sharepoint export, where you have all your data and metadata. Then you want to prepare the same structure of data in XWiki, and I will show you how to do that. Then you also, if you have attachments or images to your pages, you want to list them in a column as well and prepare a zip file with all of them that will be also imported. And finally, you will have an option to preview the mapping and run the import. Okay, let's see exactly how it looks like. So in XWiki, we have what we call App Within Minutes, which is a tool that allows you to create data structures. And it looks like you see here in this screenshot. So this is the first field of an App Within Minutes. Here you have the option to add the fields that you want to your app. So for example, in this use case, I will present a migration from SharePoint, and I will create the fields that I have in SharePoint as well. So I create an index field, which is a number, then the name and title of the document, then a department field, which is actually a selector, a static list, and then if it's reviewed or not, for example, we can use that as a Boolean. Then the next step when you configure this app is actually to configure how it's going to look. What are the columns that you will be able to see when viewing all the documents at once? This is especially useful if you have a field or metadata that you want to be able to filter and sort by. For example, in this case, I added here department to be able to find all the documents that fit in a certain department, or just sort them as such. So after you create your structure in XWiki through app within minutes, you want to go to your other tool and do an export or CSV, an Excel or CSV export. When you do that export, what you need to keep in mind is the fact that each column will represent one field or metadata in your new structured data or page with some structured data. We have, for example, when exporting from SharePoint, we have an Excel such as this one here. And if you wish, you can also add, aside from the columns that you have exported, you can also add other columns if you want to create metadata that you didn't have in SharePoint so far. Or you can add other columns with space name or page name if you want the pages to, if you want to organize the pages hierarchically when importing them. So for example, if in SharePoint you don't have any sort of hierarchy, it's all flat, you can make it so that in your resulting Excel, you create a new column and you say these 5 pages have as a parent this page, let's call it HR section. And these other 5 pages have as a parent the sales parent, the sales department parent. And when importing, you can automatically create that, that hierarchy. And also, of course, if you wish, you can remove columns of your export that you do not wish to import in XWiki. Okay, so now we have the data structure created in XWiki, and we also have our CSV or Excel document as a result of the export from our other tool. Now, we are actually moving into the batch import part. So here, what you want to do is to go to your XWiki application, that app within a minute that you just created. Go to that application's homepage and add at the end of the URL this string right here. You'll also find it in the documentation, so you don't have to remember it right now. But basically, this accesses the batch import for your application, and that's where you will have a screen where you will be able to upload the CSV or Excel file that you had resulted from your other tool. If you do that, you will have this screen where you are able to map the fields. This is very important because basically in our here we have this class fields, and these are actually the fields that we defined in our XWiki application. So you can see here that I have index, title of the department. These are all the fields that we saw earlier when we created our data structure in XWiki, our app within minutes. Okay, and here on the right, we have the columns in the file, and these are actually selectors that you can choose from, where you have all the columns in your Excel and or CSV file. So what you want to do is to map the fields, to map the column with the fields that you want to import, and then go to the next step, which is kind of previewing this, well, okay, so we want to do this sort of mapping, and then this is kind of an optional step, but it's worth mentioning. You can also import images, as I mentioned earlier, or attachments. And if you want to do that, you want to open your application in another tab and go to edit mode in object mode and click on the batch import class, which will look something like this, and where you will have the field data file name. And this exactly is where you want to add the path to your zip, the zip that contains the attachments that you want to import. So if you want to do that, this is also an option, but it's not mandatory. Okay, so we did the mapping. If we needed to or not, we also imported the attachments. And after we did the mapping, we can preview what that mapping looks like. So we can see here an example of what would be the result of my import. I can see that the information is in the correct column, which means that my mapping was successful. But if you see information that is not in the right column, you can go back to the next step and redo the mapping. If everything is okay, confirm the mapping. And you get to the almost last step of being able to decide upon what happens if you have data duplication, or if you have the option to overwrite. So here we have some options with what happens if you have duplicate rows, and also what should happen if a document that you're trying to import already exists in the wiki. Whatever you choose, it's your choice here, but we advise to take the steps seriously and understand what are the consequences. When you decide here whether if you want to ignore or update or generate new documents, you can do an import simulation, and then you will soon after have your result. This is what it looks like after the import was performed. So I have what we call a live table, where I see all of my documents that I imported, all these 3 documents. I also imported their images, kind of like some thumbnails. I have my metadata here, for example, HR sales, and I see all of them in this live table of my application's homepage. Then if you want to add another field or remove fields, you can also do that by editing your application. That was batch import. Now we are moving to kind of a summary of this, or not necessarily a summary, but more like other extensibility options. So we saw an example, but it's also important to note that batch import also has multiple other things that could bring value to your process. For example, as I actually mentioned so far, you can actually work on your exported Excel to actually add metadata that you didn't have in your old software, but be able to import it into XWiki. For example, if you have, again, let's say that you have a SharePoint instance and you have some metadata, but in XWiki you also want to add a responsible person metadata. What you will do is that in your Excel or CSV, you'll add another column. You will list there the values in each field that each document should have, or leave them empty. And when you import into XWiki, you will also add that field in your app within minutes. So what that will do is that you will have this metadata created, this responsible person, even if it didn't exist in SharePoint. Then you can also write custom processes at each step of the import through scripting if you need to. You can also convert HTML or XWiki syntaxes to HTML or Wiki syntaxes to XWiki syntax. And then finally, you can also convert files from Office formats to PDF, again, through kind of extensions of the batch import. Okay, now we're moving to probably the kind of the largest method, which is the filter stream. Filter streams is usually used when migrating from Confluence, MediaWiki, GitHub, Wiki, DokuWiki, or even all the XWiki instances. It's actually a tool that can be used, as you see, on multiple use cases, and it is able to handle large sets of data. As some general principles, it is a framework to import or export to and from XWiki. It uses XWiki's syntax conversion capabilities. It can also import or export content in XWiki format, actually, and it offers conversion logs, which can be very useful if you have some documents that are not imported, or if you have a large batch of documents and you want to be able to follow if each one of them was imported successfully. To demonstrate an example of filter stream conversion, we will take the Confluence's use case. I will present one option to migrate from Confluence to XWiki, but you will also learn at the end that we're actually working on some improvements for this, and I will give you some tips as well at the end. Okay, so if you want to migrate from Confluence, the general summary or the general steps are the following. First of all, you want to export from Confluence in XML format. Then in XWiki, you will have to run Confluence filter stream converter. Then to be able to create the hierarchies that you had in Confluence, you will want to run the nested pages migrator. And in the end, you will have to bridge the macros or decide if you have to do any work on adapting the macros that you had in Confluence. And let's take it step by step. So first of all, we said that we have to go in our Confluence instance in space settings, and we want to export in XML. You can do a full export of a space or a partial one if you wish. And of course, you should keep in mind the fact that if you're not an admin, you might not be able to export all the pages. After you did the export, what you want to do next is to go to XWiki and go to filter stream converter in your XWiki instance. This is also an application that you can install from the extension manager, and you will also have in this presentation a link with the full guide of how to migrate, where you find all the extensions that you need. Okay, so we have this filter stream application where we have to configure the input. So the first screen that we see is the input. You want to make sure that you have Confluence XML input selected, and that the zip file that resulted from Confluence is accessible to the XWiki instance, and that you have the right path written here. Then after the input, we of course also want to configure the output. We want to configure the output as XWiki instance output. We can decide if we want to keep the history or not. And then we also have some overwriting options that we can configure. After this configuration is done, we run the import, and we actually have some logs that we can follow. You can see here an example. You can follow the process through the logs. Even if you have an error, the import shouldn't stop, just that page is probably skipped. And however, if you see multiple errors happening at the same time, you might want to check the disk space. Of course, if you have some unfinished imports runs, you might leave some data behind. If everything went well with the importer, we will now move to nested pages. So basically what happens is that at this point, you have imported your Confluence content into XWiki, you converted it, but it is not organized hierarchically. It is still flat under the same space parent. So we will run the nested pages migration. It is also an extension that you will be able to install, and this is what the configuration screen looks like. We will write in the included spaces the space that we just imported from Confluence, and we will unselect all the advanced settings, and then we will compute the plan. So when we compute the plan, we will see how the pages will be organized. You also see here an example of what the nested pages migration plan looks like. And basically, the hierarchy should be the same as the Confluence one. Also, just maybe as a note, if errors are listed or too long page names, you might want to change the page name and make it shorter, of course. Okay, if everything is in order with our plan, we execute it. We also have some logs here for the nested pages migration. And at the end, we can enjoy the result of our hierarchy. Here on the left, you can see how the Confluence pages look like before having the nested pages migration run on them. So you can see that we have the CT space as a parent over all the other pages, but all the other pages are flat. And here on the right, we have the CT as a main parent, but then we have some sub-pages or children pages that also have children and so on. So this is the hierarchy that we obtained, which is identical to the one from Confluence. Now, the last thing that we should be concerned when migrating from Confluence is the macros. So Confluence as well has a large set of macros. Some of them exist and are bridged in XWiki, but some of them not. And if you import content from Confluence into XWiki and you see a little red boxes such as this one, it means that you were using a macro that does not exist in XWiki. If that's the case, you basically have multiple options. You can contact us to create or bridge the macros for you. If you're a developer, you can also try to do that yourself. We have documentation on developing macros on top of XWiki. Or you can follow us on our Confluence migration improvement and see if the macro that you're looking for exists there. And finally, I kind of gave some spoiler on this, of course, so far. We wanted to kind of announce the fact that we have actually been working intensively on Confluence migrations in the past months. Due to the fact that Confluence announced their change in strategy and a lot of users were kind of forced to move to cloud, we have more requests on that recently. So therefore, first of all, we improved the Confluence XML import, the Confluence XML module to handle comments and users. Then we have been working on a wizard for large imports that will be launched soon as a kind of a pro package or a pro application. And that wizard will carry you through all the steps that you need to import large sets of Confluence data into XWiki. You'll also have there multiple types of checks to make sure that everything will be in order at the end. And also, we have quite a large set of macros that will also be coming soon, will be made available soon. But those macros, so even if they are all macros that are intensely used in Confluence, they can be used independently in XWiki as well, even if you are not migrating from Confluence. And finally, Confluence migration webinar will be scheduled soon. If you're interested in that, please let us know or follow us on our website or social media to be notified about this. That was it with the filter stream. Now, just a few words about the last migration method, which is the developer way. Here, we just want to mention the fact that we have many APIs available that allow you to, for example, convert HTML or other syntaxes to XWiki. Also, Java is available through Groovy, and we also have job macro that allows you to run long tasks. And finally, or kind of to summarize, you can actually fully customize the import process when you use it when you use scripting for importing your data. So this is just to mention that it's available. Of course, it's more advanced. We offer this as a service if you need to, but if you are a developer and you want to do that yourself, you can also go on our website, on our community website, xwiki.org, and learn from there some available methods. As a conclusion, we saw today numerous ways to import a lot of various content from other tools to XWiki. All the tools that were mentioned are available in the XWiki product or core product or the extensions, whether they are developed by the XWiki product team or the community. We generally recommend testing these type of imports on a small batch initially. They can be tested at any moment, whether it is on a just a demo, quick setup instance, or if it's on your production instance. And finally, we are working on the filter stream application and the wizard to migrate from Confluence to XWiki easily, and this new set of advanced macros. As I've been mentioning across the presentation, XWiki as the company also offers a lot of services that could be useful for you if you want to migrate to XWiki. So we offer services to assist you in migrating from other tools. That could be done by developers or architects who have been working on this for, actually we have developers who have been with us for 12, 13 years. So they are extremely efficient in performing all types of projects, including migration ones. And aside from actually migrating your data, we can also help you set up rights, set up certain UI features, offer you training or any other need that you might have for a seamless transition to your new XWiki instance or the new XWiki product, if you wish. Aside from services around development, consulting, training, and all that, we also offer hosting in our cloud. This is just if you wish to not have any infrastructure concern, but it does not mean that you'll have any sort of lock-in. So even if you are hosted in our cloud, you will be able, if you want to migrate at any point, to take all of your data and migrate to another software or to on-premises. And then finally, of course, we also offer technical and developer support to assist you on the daily usage of your wiki on cloud or premise, or to assist you on more advanced tasks if you also want to develop on top of XWiki. Here you will see a list of some useful links. You will receive this if you wish to receive the presentation on email. We have here some documentation links on all the methods that we talked about. We also have our blog guides from migrating from Confluence and Sharepoint. And if you ever want to contact us, just feel free to drop us a line at contact@xwiki.com. That was the presentation. I hope the information was useful and that you were able to get the information that you were looking for. Now we can move to the Q&A session. If we have any questions, I don't see any question for the moment, but if you have any, please feel free to write on the chat. Okay, so we have a question about Komala workflows alternative in XWiki. So if I'm correct, those are the approval workflows in Confluence. So for this, yes, this is an excellent question. We actually have a feature called publication workflow in XWiki that allows you to set up multiple steps that the document can go through before being published. So what you can do is that you create, let's say, a document in a draft space. Certain people should have access to the draft space, let's say so. Maybe you don't want the unpublished or unchecked ones to be visible by everyone. Then you can set up the workflow as follows. You can send it to a moderator that will edit the document. Then you can send it to a validator that will approve or refuse the document and can also add comments and annotations. Then from that point, you can send it to a publisher that would be kind of the final approver. All the people that the document is sent to can be either separate users or they can be in groups. You can have actual groups of moderators and of validators and publishers. And once a document goes through all of this workflow, you can actually publish it in a different space. This is very interesting because you're basically able to do the draft work somewhere kind of hidden, and then publish the document once it is ready. So yes, we have here the link pasted as well. It is done through the publication workflow application. And just a final note on this, we also, again, through some custom work, you can actually customize the stages and the steps of the workflow. You have some standard ones, but if you want to add other stages, this can be customized as well. Anything else? Any other question? No problem. Thank you as well. Any other question maybe related to a use case that you're trying to address in your organization or company? It doesn't necessarily have to be about migrating. If you wish, we can also address questions about XWiki in general. Okay, if you don't have questions, please let me know as well if you'd like to see a demo of anything that I presented today or a certain feature of XWiki. Maybe if something wasn't clear enough in the presentation, or if you want to better understand certain steps in the migration processes, just let me know and I will demo that. Okay, I guess everything was too clear then. Just checking again for any question. Okay, we will just wait for one more minute for any question or demo request. Okay. We have a comment about the difference between Confluence and XWiki about inline comments. I'm not sure exactly what you mean by inline comments. Maybe just a few more details on this. I think it's just a matter of phrasing. Okay. Okay, we call them more frequently annotations. That's why I was having a difficulty. Yeah, sure. So let me show you what it looks like. I will start the screen sharing, and I hope you all see it. Just a moment to open it here. Okay. Okay, so I have here, this is actually cloud demo instance, and this is a local one. So let's say that we are just working on the local one. I have here the page with PDF that I showed previously. You can also see the PDF, and I write here some text that I will want to annotate later. Okay, so if you want to add a comment, certain text, what you want to do? Sorry, I see screen sharing is not loaded yet. Just a moment. Let's see now. Just a moment, sorry about this. Okay, thank you. Okay, so I was saying that if you want to annotate a certain part of the text, what you want to do is to go to the page options here and open the annotations and click this box to show them. And then you select the text that you want to annotate, and you do Control-M or Command-M if you're working on a Mac, and you add your comment. And after you do that, you will see the little comment right here, and you will also have it in the comment section if you want to reply to them. And then at the end, if you want, you can remove them or edit them as well. So that's how annotations work. Aside from annotations, we also have, of course, the comment section that you can use for working collaboratively on documents. And you also have the revision, the version history, which shows you what edits were done by each person. And of course, you can roll back to certain stages of your document. So in terms of collaborative work, you actually have multiple options in this regard. Yes, so to solve them, you actually have to delete them, or no, sorry. Oh, well, this is also, I'm not sure if you were able to see that, but if you're in the comment section and you have an annotation, when clicking on them, you are actually taken to the place where it's written. And basically in XWiki, you can delete annotations and know that it was, and again, see it in the history if you wish. I see. Okay. Okay, so regarding annotations, it also depends. We have in the comment section. I'm not sure if everyone saw it already. But basically, if they are not, you can actually activate or deactivate annotations. And indeed, if you have them deactivated at some point, you can activate them again or not. It is, so we have Kurt asking if this is correct or not. Yes, you can choose to be able to do this, to allow for annotations to be created or not. It's not good or bad one way or the other to say so. Yes, so about integration with ticketing tools, we actually have an integration with Jira. It depends on how people define integration. For example, we have some tools that allow you to do, for example, if you want to preview, like to see the summary of a Jira ticket in maybe a table on your internet page, maybe see the summary and the status. Yes, we have this sort of integration. And we also have we also have our own kind of ticketing system, which is called the task. Yeah, it's a task application where you can basically create tasks just as a ticket and resolve them and put them into different stages. I shall also add here in the notes some resources for this. Creating tickets from a page and listing tickets on a page. So on creating tickets on a page, we do have, we did this as a custom feature for sure for certain clients. I cannot say from the top of my mind if we offer it as a standard feature at this point. If you wish, I can get back to you on email with some information on this. But I cannot say right now if we offer it on as a standard feature. However, listing tickets on a page, yes, this can be done with the general integration. And another question we have is, does Wiki support multi-language text such as the scroll translation plugin on Confluence? So if it is the if XWiki supports multi-language, yes. You can have multilingual wikis where you can create documents in multiple languages, and if that is activated, I'm not sure if it's activated here. I can actually show it to you right now. Let's say that we take a page here. Let's see if we have it. Okay, so here we actually have, so I have set up this instance for it to be a multilingual instance. And after I did that, you can see that I have the option to edit the original page in English, and I can also see that in the URL. But I can also create actually a translation for it in German. So if I do that, I can see that now my instance is translated in German. We also have actually a list with all the languages in which XWiki is translated. If you ever wish, you can also contribute with translations. And yeah, so if you have a multilingual wiki, you can create content in multiple languages. For example, here, let me change that. I hope that was right, or it's 1T. And here I see that I'm looking at the document in German. I also see here on the right that I'm in German, and I can actually switch to the English version and see that the content is different. Okay, so that's one thing you can do. As I mentioned, the UI is translated as well. And about Germany, we actually have multiple clients from Germany, and we have a consultant that that helps us offer support in German as well. For example, if you want to have some consulting and you need it to be in German and English is not acceptable, we can actually offer that. And we, but then the standard technical support is offered in English and French. We can receive, well, if we have it's standard, it's in French and English. But if it's the case, if we receive this request, we can also offer support in German. It's just that it will be kind of a custom offer based on the request. And the last question that I see, thank you very much for all these questions. I believe they're all very useful and informative. Is simultaneous editing support and auto-saving on pages? So we have the real-time editor, which is kind of a feature that resulted from some research projects. So you can use that. However, it is not fully supported at the moment. What you can also do is to use a module called OnlyOffice integration that allows you to integrate with OnlyOffice and collaborate in real time on Office attachments for XWiki pages. And finally, yes, is actually possible, and you can configure it here. You can choose to autosave every 1 minute or 10 minutes or however much you wish. I can put it to 1 minute and demonstrate, but it's going to save after a while. You will see a green message at the bottom that it's saved. Just to put the real-time editing in the notes as well. Okay, someone is helping on that. Thank you. The next question is, does XWiki meet accessibility standards better than Confluence? Well, I guess it's hard to say kind of globally. We have had projects, for example, that were dedicated and that needed some accessibility features, but I cannot offer a generic response. If I can maybe, the certificates for accessibility. To my knowledge, no at the moment, but again, I can check and get back on that, and maybe someone can also assist in the notes if they have other information. But to my knowledge, no at the moment, but again, any feature can be customized to better meet a certain need. The other question that we have is, can I have an Office attachment, edit it in the Office application, and auto-upload the edited file afterwards? So that can be done through scripting and APIs. We have some similar features on our Pro applications. Let me show you that very quickly. I'll just show it in the documentation because it's easier this way. So what we have currently is a Office 365 integration that offers some aspects. For example, the fact that you can embed SharePoint documents by URL in your XWiki instance. And also you can display and search for Office documents from OneDrive inside XWiki. So that's something that we have out of the box. But again, the any other feature can be customized. Can be done custom. If there is an integration with Microsoft Teams, no, not really. Again, we don't have something as I don't have something really we don't have something out of the box, but due to all of our developer resources, we can again develop any specific feature that you might be looking for. An alternative to just a moment. Yes, XWiki supports SAML2 and OpenIDC authentication. And you can actually see on our website as well in the pricing section here. And in the authentication part, you can see that we have standard single sign-on if you wish, such as Google Apps and Azure, but we also support more advanced single sign-on protocols. In general, there's nothing that we do not, or how to say it, we support most of the protocols. The only kind of concern, if you wish, is that if it is a more advanced system that requires more maintenance or requires longer setup time, you might be encouraged to go with a higher support level than Silver. That's the only difference, the level of support where it is supported at. Looking at the Atlassian companion, just a moment. Okay, so currently we don't have a lot of work carried out on the Atlassian companion. Maybe Christoph, Christoph, maybe if you could ask the question a bit more specifically, if you're looking for a certain feature in XWiki, or if you have a certain use case, just let me know, and I will try to point you towards that. Out of the box, kind of a bridge or the same feature, no, does not exist at the moment. But again, repeating myself, anything can be developed. Okay, we have another question. If there is a feature difference between on-premise and hosted version of XWiki. No, absolutely not. It is the same software, the same version. This is actually an important aspect that with XWiki, you will always be able to host it on your premises if you need to. However, so if you host it on your premises, you will have to handle the upgrades, or the upgrades are actually the backups, for example. While if you host it in our cloud, you will be able to have that automatically if your instance is close to standard. So that's actually, if you wish, kind of a difference in services, but no, in terms of features, it's exactly the same software. And also, it's hosting is actually offered for free for any with any support plan. So if you want to have, for example, I don't know, 1 year of silver with 25 users on the cloud, it's actually going to be the same price as having it hosted on your services, having just the support with the instance hosted on your services. Sorry, Christoph, I understand now the question better. Okay. Yeah, I think I had a bit of lag in receiving it and didn't understand the clarification. Okay, anything else? Any other question, I mean? All the resources that that I mentioned when addressing the questions are listed in the shared notes. If you want to take a look there as well, just please feel free to use them. But as mentioned before, please feel free to ask us if you want any other information. I think there is another question incoming. I saw some typing. So we'll wait for just a couple of seconds more. We saw here the autosave. Okay. Thank you very much, Stephen. Very nice of you. Okay, so it looks like there are no questions. Again, if you have any other question, or if you need our support in maybe just assessing your migration, please feel free to write us and we'll be glad to respond. If you wish, you can also receive this presentation on the email and we can keep in touch from there. Thank you very much for your messages and your participation. It has been really really nice for me as well. Hope it was informative for you. And just as a last note, if I may ask you, we will have a feedback link shared right now with you on the chat. So if you wish, if you have time, please feel free to write some feedback. It's the one that Nicoletta just shared right now. I would be really grateful. It would help all of us improve, especially for the future webinars. Okay, thank you very much. Have a great evening or afternoon or even lunch. I think it would be if you're in USA. Thank you very much again for being here, and I wish you all the best. Bye, everyone.